I'm going to just say, Letitia James, watch out. Juan Merchan, watch out. Arthur Erdogan, the judge in the Letitia James case where they're trying to make Donald Trump pay nearly $500 million or $500 million because Erdogan and Letitia seem to know the valuation of Mar-a-Lago better than the bank itself that made the loan. Erdogan, watch out. Fani Willis, watch out. Alvin Bragg, watch out. Jack Smith, who just officially resigned in shame, watch out. Kash Patel, who is Donald Trump's pick for the FBI, just went on TV and promised this.
I mean, this is so unprecedented. It's just amazing that he would say that.
It's shockingly unconstitutional, Trace. It's great to be with you, and I'm here to announce on your show a measure that I'm working with Congress that should be Congress's bread and butter. And I'm calling for the subpoenas to be issued to Judge Merchan's daughter's company, who made $15+ million from the illicit information pouring out of her father's courtroom. I want to know the bank records because money doesn't lie. Yep. I want to know how deep it is and how much of it went to the family and how much of it is going to the family after this false conviction. And then we need to investigate the FEC actual violations that this judge and his family conducted, because he should never have been overseeing this trial to begin with because of the illicit campaign money that was flowing through there, and the unconstitutional due process violations are only the beginning. So America is calling for accountability of our judicial system, and Congress is the only lever that has it, and I'm hoping for one or two brave members of Congress that I'm talking to issue those subpoenas ASAP.
Wow. Okay. Yes. You know what? I'm not vindictive. And Donald Trump's not vindictive. And Pam Bondi and Kosh, nobody's vindictive here. But we do believe in getting to the bottom of what went down. And you know why that's important? Because this matters for either side. I don't care if you're left or right. If we live in a world where they can use the legal system against you, just like they've used it against one Donald Trump, and like, don't kid yourself, that's exactly what Letitia James was doing. She was basing her entire political career off of going and getting Donald Trump. She told us over and over and over and over and over again.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, we know he's crazy. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. We know he's out of control. We know he's losing it. We know his days are numbered, and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale.
Oh, we see how that DEI has really worked out for you out in California. But Letitia James should not be able to do that. She should not be able to campaign on this vendetta. We can't have vendetta against politicians. How the heck are you ever going to get anybody to run for office? I mean, he was unique. He had the money. He had the ability to do what he did. But you know what? Most people, ladies and gentlemen, would never put themselves or their family through that. So we need a better system. We can't have these kind of lawfare tactics. They are far too dangerous. And guess what? Letitia's going to find that out pretty darn soon, at least by the Court of Appeals. One judge, David Friedman, when listening to the case, was sitting there going, well, what the heck do we do? How do we make sure that we don't have attorney generals that are wielding so much power and using it so maliciously? Remember when he said this?
You're pointing to Ernst & Young, you're pointing to First American. Ernst & Young, you're dealing with the collapse of Lehman Brothers. First American, you're dealing with an action brought against an appraiser who overvalued properties at the behest of a lender, perpetrating a scheme to induce unsophisticated consumers into taking out home loans that they could not afford. It hardly seems that justifies bringing an action to protect Deutsche Bank against President Trump, which is what you have here. I mean, you've got two really sophisticated parties in which no one lost any money. And that was the point of my initial question. Every case that you cite involved where there was damage to consumers, damage to the marketplace. You've got a scheme to get unsophisticated consumers to take out home loans. You got a collapse of Lehman Brothers. You don't have anything like that here.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, the statute doesn't require that whatsoever for liability. And the statute is written broadly because the legislature wants the Attorney General to go in and stop fraud and illegality.
Counsel, I think you hear underneath all these questions, the question of mission creep. Has 6312 morphed into something that it was not meant to do? And that's something you must address, because there has to be some limitation on what the Attorney General can do in interfering in these private transactions, as Justice Friedman said, that where people don't claim harm. So what is the limiting principle?
Right? What's the limiting principle? I mean, if she can just go wild here, if she can jump in when there is no victim and say, I believe there was a crime, if she can say, I think Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, even though it's making income of something like $56 million a year, and normally you would trade based on some kind of valuation. I mean, if she can say that, what does that say about our entire system? So when Kash Patel says he wants to go after these people and understand the financial incentives, I'm all with him. If Judge Merchan's daughter made $15 million raising money off of daddy's lawsuit in court, then did any of that money go back to Merchan himself? I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, just think about it. Like, wouldn't you, as a logical person, the father of a daughter, hey, I'd be proud, you know what, Megan, you're not working for my team if she was mine, but you're making $15 million. Okay, honey, you're standing great on your own 2 feet. I'm a judge in New York. Maybe I'm pulling in 200, 250. And my daughter's making $15 million. So I'm like, okay, you know what would be appropriate for me in this particular position? It would be appropriate for me to bow out and say, you know what, this is a little too close to home, a little too much conflict of interest. But this egomaniac, and that's what he is, that's what they all are, egomaniacs. This egomaniac sat there and said, no, I'm going to listen to this. And then I am going to make sure I get a conviction, even though there's no alleged crime. I'm telling you, this will go back to the appeals court. This will get kicked out. The Merchan one, the Arthur Erdogan one, well, that's just a whole bizarre thing. So I don't know if you guys have been following this, but Arthur Erdogan, he is the judge in the Letitia James case, all right? And in this particular case, he's the one that was A-OK. He actually upped the fine from, I think she wanted like $248 million or $300 and some odd million, obscene, ridiculous. And he upped it to a whopping $500 million, nearly $500 million. I mean, gosh, right? So they clearly are trying to bankrupt him in some way, shape, or form. That's what they wanted. Letitia and this judge combined. Remember? I mean, she said this. She's like, well, we'll take his assets. She just couldn't wait to go over there to Trump Tower and be like, I own this now. New York owns this. We're taking it away from Donald Trump. That was her goal. That was her goal. And she says she's not backing down.
I will not fear Donald Trump. I have steel in my backbone. And the reality is I will not allow this person, Donald Trump, who unfortunately is a broken man, to get in the way of progress and to separate us.
And so now I got to ask you about the future.
Her point was, I have steel in my backbones. I'm not backing down. I'm not going anywhere. Well, Mike Davis, one of the attorneys for Donald Trump, had a few things to say about that.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike, this isn't the same Trump administration. Stop messing around. Don't rig elections. Don't illegally vote. Don't try the funny business, because we know the team this time and they are not effing around.
They're not. You see, one of the advantages of coming in now, Benny's right, is that they've been there, done that. They saw what happened in the first go around, right? So this isn't their first rodeo, as they like to say. They know what can happen, and they're not going to allow it to happen. Instead, they're going on offense. I remember talking to Donald Trump off record, actually, but it wasn't really off record. He wouldn't mind me saying this. I think he's even said this publicly. I was like, why didn't you go after Hillary Clinton? You kept talking about it on the campaign trail. And he was like, we're not Latin America. I don't want to be Latin America. I don't want to be some banana republic. I'm not going to do that. Well, what happened? They went after him. So he knows that. And my whole point is, this is not about one side or the other, but just preserving the sanctity of our institutions, including political offices, so that you're not immediately just thrown to the wolves, with the media, by the way, in tow, ready to do all the bidding. That's what happened. And we can't allow that to happen again. And if it means Letitia going to jail, damn it, you know what? She should. She should be disbarred for sure. These judges, they should lose their licenses. They are giving the New York legal system a horrendous name. Heck, I mean, Alvin Bragg didn't even want to bring the case. Why? He didn't have jurisdiction. He couldn't bring it. And Jack Smith looked at it. He would have had jurisdiction. And he said, well, no, I can't do this. There's not a case there. So if you don't have a case, why are you bringing a case other than for political reasons, which means all of you need to go bye forever. You don't belong in this legal system. I'm disgusted by these crazy, awful people. Really, really awful people.